We've missed all the stuff about us spooning, but I've clicked record just before I've said we've missed all the stuff about us spooning.
Yeah, so now you're the one that's raised it about the multiple instances.
Listeners can either reach for their own glass of red wine, or they can turn off and report us.
That's
So
true.
good luck, everybody.
They can. What I would like to point out is Chris and I have known each other for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
Time's relative, though, isn't it?
Exactly.
Casual spooning is fine.
Yeah.
I've started listening to a few different podcasts that I'm taking some inspiration from. I was listening to the Chris and Rosie Ramsey podcast, Shag Married Avoid, which they have episodes that they kind of declare beforehand the fact that this is an episode where they've both got a big glass of red wine. And they kind of declare at what point in the day they're doing it. If they're doing it in the morning, they're fine. If it's an evening, it's a red wine podcast, and it is different.
Would ours improve?
I don't know, Scott. Have you got any red wine to hand?
I don't. We are a dry house. I've only got, actually, I lied. We've got whiskey in the house, and that's it at the moment. So,
I'm assuming Tom's got some. I'm assuming Mr. Hovell's got some Snoop Dogg red tucked away at the back there.
No, not to hand, unfortunately. No, we're completely out of red.
Can you not send the butler out to get you some?
I know. I should have got provisions last time. Yeah.
We can always give it a test on Sunday after we've been at Hopsters all afternoon and see if the pod's any better.
Well, you know what? So this is like interesting. So we went to the Cherry Tree Beer Festival, me, Scott, and Tom, a while back, and that's where we first tested the remote microphones, and we recorded a short kind of bit of audio where we're mainly continuing the condiment or sauce argument while eating Scotch eggs and sausage rolls is mainly what we're doing at that point. And that is actually uploaded on the New Dice Please YouTube channel under something called New Dice Rambles, and it's the only thing on that channel at the moment. So we could do another New Dice Ramble next Sunday after playing some games. We could bring the setup and do a little New Dice Ramble.
I think we could do a sort of a New Dice Ramble stroke match of the day results show.
Yes,
copious alcohol. I think that could be a tester as well for future broadcasts.
It could be a good one.
It was done 6 months ago, and it's got 9 views.
Yeah. I think most of them are me because I really enjoy it. Like we have we reignite the sauce condiment debate, and I go full. I love it. I really like it.
How have I not seen this?
Well, this is the first instance of us promoting it. We've never we didn't go out to anyone to say we'd done it, but we created the separate New Dice Please channel to be this kind of overarching thing. I think. Partly because, and I think we talked about this on the day, I'm still waiting for GW to shut down Bloodbowl Live. So part of the reason for creating the New Dice Please channel was we can hop over there if we need to. I think it's got a saved playlist of this podcast as well. So if you find the New Dice Please YouTube channel, feel free to subscribe to that and watch that rambles. But you could also the podcast will appear on there in the form of a playlist. So you know it is there. But yeah,
love it.
Anyway, should we get to this week's podcast?
Well, no, I feel like we should reignite sauce versus condiment.
No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. No.
If we're going sauce and condiment, Mr. Feeks, we need pie.
There's also what is a correct pie, because we nearly got into that one. We nearly got into the whole pie lid, pie crust.
That's not a pie.
Mashed potato topping.
There you go. Yes,
it is not a pie. That's sauce with a lid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a stew with a lid. It's not a pie.
It's not even a vol au vent. It's not even a decent vol au vent. It's not even anything. It's just like I'm going to scale here.
A vol au vent is a reverse stew with a lid, right? Because the lid comes underneath, so it's a stew with a base of vol au vent. So that is still not a pie, but
yeah. So let's avoid these topics and let's play the intro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Dice Please, the bite-sized Blood Bowl podcast, brought to you by the people at Blood Bowl Live. My name is Chris. Joining me this week, Mr. Scott Bryant. Now, Scott,
Good evening, Chris. Ominous.
I've just had a weekend of watching grassroots motorsport. So my question for you this week is: if you were to pick a car that you were to buy purely for the purpose of entering into some kind of amateur racing series, what car would you buy?
I would go nostalgic and I would buy one of my first cars, which was an MG Midget. And this is the 1973 round wheel arch. I'm talking pre the crap bumper because of US legislation, but little 1275 souped up engine in there. Go for it. It's what you need in life.
Beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I'm very much approve. Joining us also, Mr. Tom Hovell. Tom, same question. What car would you buy?
It'd have to be probably the second car I ever drove, which was actually a neighbour's car, and it was a present for her husband for his 50th, and they got it delivered, and it's an Austin Healey Frog-Eyed Sprite.
Ooh, same chassis as the MG Midget,
Ooh,
basically.
And
Part of the Leicester, everything.
he got it as a surprise birthday present for him, and it came off the trailer, and she couldn't get in it, and she needed someone to drive it, and I was the only person at home with a driver's license. Didn't realise they had a racing clutch, so it was pretty dicey taking up their driveway to hide it in their garage. Very, very scary. I ended up getting as far as the garage, getting out and pushing it into the garage. I was so nervous about destroying this thing and just taking it into their kitchen via the garage.
Amazing. And joining us, of course, Mr. Tom Feeks. I'm really intrigued as to what you're going to say because we are from a different generation to the people on the other side of the screen. So I imagine you're going to say like a Ford KA.
Oh, Chris. I was so torn, because my initial thought was something as close to like a Wacky Racers car, or like the Wallace and Gromit car for the Vengeance Most Foul, where it's just the gnome legs going along the bottom. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say my first KA, my first car, the pink
some
bubble,
KAs,
which
yeah.
If
it
you're
would get
racing though,
destroyed
wouldn't you?
by both of you. Oh no, it would get destroyed by both of you, and it would probably break in the process.
But if you were in a race series of all KAs, you'd be all right, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd be all right.
And would you go for the basic KA or car, whatever it's
Oh
called,
no,
or would
I
you
would.
go for a souped up version, the Feeksy Deluxe, as it would be?
I would go for my very first one, which Chris, you know well, because we did some very
We did some stupid things in that car.
very stupid things.
Do you want to? Should we
driving
stop
in
there
that
now,
car.
just for litigation? We've talked about you two spooning up before. If we start adding in shenanigans in a small Ford hatchback,
No, these would have been definite driving offences, not anything else.
I'll tell you about one which I particularly love.
should we?
Oh, I
otherwise-
don't know if I
This is good.
was
We were driving
incredibly stupid.
we were driving back. So Tom Feeks, the obviously very sensible person, had no drinks while we were at the pub and was my lift home. And there's a particular straight bit of road in between the pub and the A12. And on this bit of road, we decided to put the windows down, turn the lights off in the dark, and then drive down the road towards the A12 with and stick our heads out the windows.
Just floored it. I cannot recommend it. If there are any children
No,
watching,
don't do
please
this at home.
never do
Don't
that.
do that.
However,
do that.
if there are any police officers listening,
Yes.
it
This
was a terrible idea.
Very bad idea and comfortably 15 years ago as well.
A12, you say, right? Okay. Look out for speed cameras for the next 6 months.
I would enter the City Car Cup in a Peugeot 106 or a Citroen C1. Lovely little compact little car, easy to replace and nice and nippy around the circuit. So that's what I would go for. Clearly we'll have to do a NDP race day out, but we're not here to talk about racing this week. No. Instead, we have been inspired by a Facebook post that appeared on the Blood Bowl community page a while ago now, sort of middle of March. This appeared a post by Katia. So, Katia, thank you very much for giving us this inspiration. And it was a post around Blood Bowl superstitions, particularly around kind of dice rolling. Things that people do that they believe increases their luck with the game of Blood Bowl that we all play. So we thought we would have a little chat about our own personal Blood Bowl superstitions. Is there something that we do that we think brings us that little bit of extra luck in a game? Something that will kind of improve the way that we play or improve the results that we get? And we'd have a little look. I'll start off the bat here with a superstition that I had a couple of seasons ago. Season 4, I believe it was, I had this superstition. And to be fair, it got me through to the semi-finals with this particular superstition. So I had 2 really bad games. And I turned up to these games I was playing my Lizard Man team themed around the Mighty Ducks, my Bitey Ducks Lizard Man team. I was wearing my Mighty Ducks hockey jersey to my first 2 games, and I lost both the first games. So for game 3, I didn't wear my Mighty Ducks jersey. I wore my New York Rangers hockey jersey instead with my New York Rangers hat. And I listened to the inspirational speech that the coach gives in the second in D2, the Mighty Ducks, the second Mighty Ducks film. I listened to that inspirational speech in the car, much to my wife's dismay, on the way to the to the shop to play. And I won that game, and then I won 5 games in a row on my way to the semi-finals. And I did it for every single game up until the quarterfinal and semi-final, where I then obviously wore a suit because it's playoffs and you have to be formal. So that was my superstition that worked in that game. It hasn't worked since, if I'm being completely honest. But for that season, I stuck by it. Every game I had my routine. I had a Monster energy drink. I wore my jersey. I played the music on the way, and I got 5 wins from 5. To get me to that point. So that was my little superstition that I did that season.
Well, all I can say is in the spirit of fairness and impartiality and balanced conversation, it's just a load of old bollocks, really, wasn't it? So you played 2 matches. Who did you play before you went into this game 3 Uber playoff?
I played Mr. JD Clark with his he was playing Corn at the time, lost 2-1. I then played Scott Phipps, Mr. Scott Phipps of Aardvarks and Dragons in Woodbridge, and I lost I think 2-0. That was his kind of go-to scoreline at the time.
So if we stop there, just go back 2 matches. If you'd have started that sequence of matches and said your first match is, you're fresh with the Ducks, you're young, sweet, naive, and innocent. You haven't become the twisted individual we see before us.
Correct.
And you were playing JD Clark. That would have been maybe 50-50. You don't know. Would have been my money would have said it would have been a close game. And then if you were playing the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Scott Phipps, you'd have said your money's on Mr. Phipps. Even your money would have been on Mr. Phipps. So to lose those first 2, it's not a surprise. But for your point, just because you changed the jersey into a different color, which most people do most days, unless you've got a very limited wardrobe taste or budget. And then I just don't understand. It'd be great to get some insight. How does some scripted words written by the legendary Emilio Estevez change the dice and change you and your play style or whatever else you do? And that is 100% responsible for you winning that next match.
You're going to be such a buzzkill today, aren't you?
Don't worry,
Yes.
He plays it like this, but he is superstitious.
He is superstitious. He's trying to play he's trying to sit there on his high horse in that red square in the corner.
His superstition is to only play tier 1 Edge teams.
Some people would call him a coward.
Exactly.
Well, I think the two words I'd say at that point, dear listener, is travel and sex, not in that order.
Here's the
Let's
right.
go
Okay.
forth.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Scott. I completely appreciate what you're saying. Like, superstition is superstition. Luck is discuss the discussion of what is luck and how luck works. You know, whatever. But you know, even some of the most successful sports people out there will. I watched an interview just the other day. Former Irish international Shay Given was interviewing Manchester City goalkeeper Edison, who said that he wears the exact same pair of pants for every single game that he has ever played for Man City. Exactly the same pair of pants every single game. And Edison has led them to an incredibly successful run as their goalkeeper. Now, I know that there's no connection, but I think maybe the connection is that you play in a way that you know your fortunes change because of something, and whether you know there may be no proper hard evidence that what you have done has changed it, but it may actually just give you internally that bit of confidence that the change you've made, and maybe all you need is that little bit of extra confidence in yourself to make you do better. So maybe that is how it comes into play.
I think if it gives you a psychological boost, a little positive impact, I fully
I think
agree,
that's
Chris.
okay.
That's an okay thing. I think though, putting everything then totally, if everything then becomes totally dependent on that decision, that's losing it a bit, really. I mean, you know, Gary Player said, you know, the more I practice, the better I get. Oh, sorry, the luckier, the more I practice, the luckier I get. I'll stop, and I'm sure you can redo that on the edit in terms of putting in the proper
No, I'm going to leave
quotation
it
there.
there
Yeah.
because you're here as
Um,
Sergeant Buzzkill this week, so
that's fine. That's fine. I
I'm
think
leaving
you
your
do.
mistake in the
I
edit.
think you do. I think you do make your own luck. The more you practice, the better you become at things. And especially with Blood Bowl, we all know, you know, even if you haven't played for a little while, you can become cold and rusty and forget things sequentially or however it goes as well.
There definitely is. There's a certain amount of, yeah, it's I don't know how much I necessarily agree with the luck side of it, whether or not it is luck, but there's a certain amount of, if you have your routine, it gets you into the space to be able to concentrate, or it gets you into the space to be able to do it. It's the same as if you're going into the office for work and you put on something smart, you're probably going to be a bit more focused than you are going in like your joggers.
Yeah.
I'm so much worse when I work from home and I work naked, Tom. It's so much better when I at least put on a t-shirt.
I'm weirdly more productive, but
Free.
but it always is that this wasn't one of mine. But I've got a Nottinghamshire Blood Bowl League shirt that this season I've been wearing, and it seems to, and obviously it won't be the shirt, but there's something about putting it on and getting it into the zone, being right. I'm going to go here, I'm going to drive here, I'm going to do this, do blah blah blah, and it gets me. It's probably my ADHD coming through, but
You're
I get
in the
into that zone.
mindset of playing,
Yeah,
because you're wearing the kit.
That's
So that
exactly it.
yeah.
That's
So do you have any other ones? So let's move on from my single one there that Scott has tried to tear to shreds. Let's go to Mr. Feeks. What do you have like a Blood Bowl superstition that you will use?
I do, but just very quickly, you mentioned Edison wearing the same pants. I just had a look. He's got 270 appearances for Man City.
Yeah.
If they're the same pants, bearing in mind he's active in them.
Shay Given's comments were, those pants are going to be
they are
mess,
wrecked.
Right?
They are absolutely wrecked.
Because
So
you're not telling me that he hasn't done 200 and something 7 farts in those pants, and that is going to make a hole after enough.
That is anyway, completely different subject.
Run off topic.
Yeah. So my Blood Bowl superstition is much more around dice. When I arrive at the table, I'll have a very set order, presumably unless it's at a tournament and it's a bit of a rush, as I don't always do this and I tend to fail a little bit more. I'll always take a few sets of dice with me, and they'll start off. I've put them out next to me. Obviously, you can't see it, but I start off with a D6 and D8 in a line. Then my blocking dice, and facing up will always be 1 power, 1 push, 1 both down. It's in an effort.
particular.
My
isn't
only way of thinking about it is I can't ask Nuffle for all pals because I accept he's going to give me some both downs. But if I have it there, I'm being reasonable and I'm asking for one rather than double. Then it goes what my most successful dice have been. So there's some lovely Nobble yellow dice, which are on there, which has been my most successful. Then some blue Chubs dice, then the NAF dice, and then some silver ones, and then a random one that I found.
What color are your NAF dice?
NAF dice are the green ones. So I think last year's.
Yeah, I don't like those.
Yeah, they're all right. They've worked for me a few times, but they are in order of who's been most successful for me. And even with them, I'll accept they'll fail me a couple of times, but if they fail me twice in a row, they get put to the side and the next one takes over.
Okay, so that is one of the things on the article was around swapping your dice out when they roll badly. So I used to do this. Scott, Tom, I'll be interested if either of you do this. I used to do this, and I then thought that actually, if you were being like, I know it's not logical, but if you're saying that every dice will roll average over a period of time, if you swap the dice out because it's rolling badly, you don't give it the chance to recover. And I know that that's stupid, but that is where my mind goes. Is if I swap, if the dice only roll skulls, then the kind of statistical averages will mean that it should over time recover and roll the better rolls. If I swap that dice out, then I haven't given it the chance to, and I could pick up another dice while that one is also on a bad roll. So I now don't swap.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I do see it quite frequently. Funny enough, it's usually with the 6 dice. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dice. The
standard D6,
standard D6s. They are often, myself included, are swapped and alternated. But I often see that the POW dice, the 8 and the 16, are the same set. I don't often see people changing those dice that much.
I've seen somebody swap to the standard GW red because I know a few people who stand by that the GW standard set, that standard red and white set, roll the best of any dice in the game. So like Robert Handley, who played and was semi-finalist, beat me to 3rd place in season 4. Brutal with a number of different teams. He would only ever roll the red block dice, and he was absolutely brutal with them. As an example, Riotous Rams rolled a lot of the standard red dice as well, and insisted that they were very brutal. So there's kind of that superstition around the dice in particular.
Yeah, I've heard that the dwarf dice have mythical powers.
The original dwarf dice apparently are incredible. But they're also, dwarfs. Dwarves.
They
Dwarves.
can't really do anything wrong.
Yeah, there's less options on that dice that screw them over, isn't there? Tom, what Mr. Hovel, what superstition? Do you have any kind of particular superstitions?
So I would probably say that my most common one is to face all my six-sided dice up, facing the 6s. If I don't, then yeah. But what I will do is I will alternate them. So it will look something like, I know that you're looking at it, but I will alternate, so I'll mix them around. So yeah,
that's really good content for the Spotify listeners.
What he showed was a horrible mix of colours, which has stressed me out so much. I feel like I need a break.
So I tried this. I tried to freak everyone out at the previous tournament, Ipswich Classic, by only taking random dice.
And that worked for you, right?
Yeah. Well, the first game did, and then the second game was just useless. And then I did use one set of actual proper dice, and then got I think it was like a 4 and a 5 or something like that. Just when Chris came over and he was like, there you go. But then they went back to their usual 1s and 2s. The other thing I'm starting to try and do and just see a little bit difference with is there any difference rolling just freehand using a dice tower or using a cup. So at the moment, I've done the freehand one does give you more variety. The dice tower has been doing more consistent on kind of 1s and 2s and 3s. So next one I've got is I've got to get myself a dice cup. I've got some dice cup up there, so I'll need to start using it.
Scott, you had a look of despair just there.
I just try not to shout or cry or in equal measure. I get it that people do that, and I've seen coaches do both in the same matches. I've seen coaches. Harrison's done this before. I've seen Harrison do it. John Reed has done it as well. Elliot's another one for doing it as well. They'll roll a set of dice, and and then Mr. Phipps has done this as well. They'll roll a set of dice. If the dice are continually under average, they'll say no, and they'll put those dice away. Then they'll roll another set of dice, and I've seen the other set of dice be average, be worse, be better. I've seen all three, so it's a question of why. Personally, per se, I when I do it and I use dice. Yeah, I do put them, sort of not sequentially, but I put my D6 to one side, then I put my D8 and D16, and then I put my block dice, just so I don't get them muddled up, and as simple as that. But I don't put them like sixes up or ones up, or I don't put them in color coordination or sequentially. And all I'll do is I'll roll two dice. There are times when, depending where the dice go, I'll pick up some fresh dice and roll them. Always roll from the hand. One, because I can't be asked with a cup. And secondly, yeah, I'll sometimes I'll either just pick up the same dice and re-roll them. And I've rolled double ones on I think every single dice, whether it's red dice, not the original, but the A&D red dice, whether it's NAF dice, whether it's dice that were gifts, everything like that.
So here's because I would if you gave me the option, I would ban rolling dice from your hand. And the only reason for it is that even when you're playing someone and you absolutely know that person is not going to be kind of cheating their dice or anything like that, and it's absolutely fine. And even when you're if you hold the dice in your hands and you shake them really hard, whatever, if you roll the dice from your hands and it doesn't roll on the table at all, it just lands a particular side up. Anytime this is Blood Bowl or D&D, any game that involves dice rolls where I see this happen. If the dice leaves their hand and lands a side up and there's no rolling that dice has done, there's just a little part in my head that says that the dice has been placed because it hasn't rolled. And I know that that's stupid. I know it's really silly, but somebody who wanted to be very clever and meticulous in cheating probably could place the dice in their hand, grip it, and just drop it on the side that they want when it doesn't roll. And using a dice cup or using a dice tower takes that away. And I'm not accusing anyone who rolls by hand of cheating, but it kind of especially when things aren't going your way and you're maybe looking for reasons as to why that's happening, because you're being irrational and things aren't going your way and you're starting to get worked up and maybe you're tilting a bit, then it just gives you a free pass as to go, okay, that dice has dropped. Well, they didn't really roll that, did they? And it's, it's that it gives you that option. And I think it takes away that option by being no, you've got to be in a cup or you've got to be in a tower. There's got to be something out of your control that makes sure that dice is absolutely sufficiently rolled in every single
You could sometimes argue that the similar thing was with people who use a cup and they swirl rather than shake.
Yes, yeah, because I violently shake my cup, and this was another point on this.
Are
we now going to talk about wrist action etiquette?
I violently shake with my right, not my left.
That's why it's so much more muscular.
Excuses.
Yes, bone density and all that. The article in particular that inspired this, one of the points that they said was smashing the dice cup down on the table to imbue the dice with strength and decisiveness and impress the opponent and their dice to submission. But I will sit and I'll shake a dice cup for ages. I'll slam it and I'll sit there and stare at it. And I think I was at the Welsh Championships and I sat there and my opponent was sat there waiting for me to lift the cup. And before I did, I just sort of looked at it. I was just like, don't be a dick. And then before I lifted the dice cup up,
Did it work?
it did, well, I got a draw out of that game, which was enough to win me best comeback in that particular tournament. So I'll take it.
I think your point with the dice cups and not the hand rolling, I agree. I think unless you've, but sorry, go back. I agree, but for slightly different reasons. I would say don't roll from the hand, because it seems to be the most contentious point in Blood Bowl, and it's something that Ben mentioned the other week about people having a big thing over it. Like, if there's going to be any allegations of cheating, it's generally around hand rolling of dice. That's probably the most common one, or is the most common one that I've heard of anyway. But my reasoning of it is the number of times that someone's chucked dice on there and it's knocked your models over. And then you have to work out where everything's going back on. And it's, come on. If you've got something to roll it into, if you've got a dice mat, doesn't bother me.
And to your point, Mr. Feeks, I fully agree. When you're not going to be knocking over models, and there's no risk at all. Well, there is a minimal risk of a cock dice.
So yeah, I mean, I've only had one instance where I've rolled from a dice cup and the dices end up cocked. And to be fair, this was against Mr. Joe Thomas, if you're listening. Hi, Joe. And it was bizarre that he lifted the dice cup up and the dice was genuinely perfectly balanced on a corner within the dice mat. It was bizarre. If we have if I can get the photo off him, if he can find the photo, then we'll put it on the Instagram. But it's it's the most perfect cocked dice that you've ever seen in your life. But that was an anomaly. Like, you are less likely to get cocked dice when you use that sort of thing. Okay, so those are some superstitions, arguably superstitions or routines or something that I've got, Tom, that you've got. Scott, I know you don't buy into. You're going to say you don't buy into this stuff, but there must be, is there any routine or something that you do that you would almost feel like, because I think we can count it as a superstition or a good luck thing if it's something that you think that if you didn't do it, it would disrupt the way that you play in some way. Is there anything like that you've got?
No, I was struggling to think of this earlier. It sounds really dull and boring, but ho hum. It's what I do in work. It's like just numbers. Anyway, just looking, just for me again, it's just making sure everything's organized. For me, it's just not so much OCD, because I don't worry about my dice in the right order, sequentially, color, etc. As again, I just have my D6. They can be on the left or the right or the middle. I'm not really fussy, but as long as they're separate from my block dice, separate from the D8, D16, I'm good to go. And then I've just got to get in I've got myself into a good habit, I think, over the years, of just between each turn, just counting all the players that are on the pitch to make sure, one, are they facing the right direction, and two, have they all been activated?
You do.
In terms of looking at the dice, though, you like everybody say, "Come on, I'm going to have a 6," and things like that, and here we go, and so you have that sort of entertainment. But I don't do anything with the purposeful intent of picking it up. I do occasionally, if I'm just if the mind is ticking over, I might pick up a dice and just roll it in my hand. But then I do that with pens, pencils all the time anyway. I'm just a person who has fidgety hands.
This is a good, because I'm just thinking
This is
something that
another
I know,
topic now, but-
something that I know Scott does do is he doesn't. Maybe Scott doesn't do the the rituals pre-rolling or anything, but Scott, you are someone who does do the how's the best way to phrase it?
Go on.
Kick the shingles into the table, kick the opponent's shingles into the table. That's it. Yeah.
Try doing that, Tom. Yeah.
Does that just when you're about to roll. Ooh, oh.
I'm thinking it's the role. It's the I've decided I'm not going to do this action. I'm going to do this instead. And you do that, and then you sit there and you go, well, I'm going to roll what it would have been. It's the kind of
Occasionally I do it, and I shouldn't.
it's the what could
Yeah.
have happened roll. And like
Occasionally,
I
yeah.
think
It's
I
a
think
pointless exercise. It means nothing, and it gives me absolutely, I think it's more of an entertainment, laughter factor as opposed to anything serious. Because
Okay.
it's a totally irrelevant, meaningless gesture. Apart from it causes a bit of entertainment.
Question to the group then. Would you feel comfortable just having and using one set of dice? So just literally all just the red dice. So the 2 6 dice, the POW dice.
Yeah.
Just only using them, not having a big bag of dice.
I tell you what, Tom, I will do that on Sunday for you, just for you.
I have started. Only I will have one set of 7, one matching set of 7 standard GW dice, and the set I use will depend on the team that I'm using, and then I will pick one set, one pair of D6s that I will use with that. So, and that will also normally depend on the team that I'm using or the opponent that I'm playing. So, if I'm playing a Chubbs game against Mr. Feeks or David Drysdale or anyone like that, it might be a set of Chubbs dice. If I'm using my elves, then often it's the pink NAF dice because they go with the team. The ducks, it will be the ducks dice. So it will be on theme. But I have started to be like, I will use a set of 9 dice, so standard 7 GW plus 2 custom D6s, and I'll kind of stick to that for a game.
Yeah. The thought of only taking one set of any type of dice kind of makes me feel a little bit ill.
We're stressing things out.
Yeah, but mainly because I carry them. There's a little dice bag that I've got, which I've lost some of the string to. So the number of times one dice has fallen out is like, for me, I just can't do it because it stresses me out. I've had such a panic at a couple of times being like, where is that D16? That's the only one I've got.
Oh yeah, I can't use an incomplete set.
Oh no, absolutely not.
I do in my dice bag, whatever I've got though, Tom. I do have a couple of D8s and a couple of D6s just for contingency management, as opposed to anything superstitious. Just like
yeah, interesting. I think one thing that's sort of popped into my head whilst I've been talking about all of this and all these dice superstitions, because Scott, you're right, they are superstitions. Personally, I don't know, how much of a difference they really have. I suppose we'll never really know. But we play a game which is all about managing probability, essentially. And I don't want to think about it like that. I hated doing stats at GCSE, but that's effectively what it is it's a game of managing odds the entire time and risk management. But this allows us to have some form of feeling like we have some form of control over it. It just gives us that little bit of, right, you've really screwed me over. You're going to go in dice jail.
I think that's it as well, because I think there's, you can do all the numbers and you can do all of that. And I think as soon as you've played for long enough, you will understand that some days you will just, if you never roll higher than a 2 and you never roll a POW in an entire game, then averages and statistics will mean that over time, I doubt there is anyone out there who, if they look at every single dice they have ever rolled, it doesn't average out as being roughly even. I know that Mr. Hovel is sat there right now being like, I'm the exception to the rule, but I would
if that's the case, some game I'm going to come across and people are going to accuse me of cheating because I'm just rolling 6s because I'm just storing them up for one game.
Well, I would reckon even if we looked at your dice, Tom, I reckon that like in armor breaks, maybe you're constantly rolling a 7 and never breaking armor, but that 7 is always a 6 and a 1, and your 6s are coming at the place when you don't want them. So I think you could, most people would accept that over the course of your entire playing career, you will roll relatively average. And we know that the game is largely about reducing the number of dice that you roll. The less dice that you roll, the less chance you are of getting the bad dice that don't, you do the important stuff first so that when you fail, all of that we know is good practice. So, but I think that there is something to be said about having these little rituals that maybe make you, maybe give you confidence to do something that you might not do, that might win you the game, or maybe give you the focus to make sure you're doing the important stuff first. So it's not necessarily about it's not about doing the ritual because you think it will mean you'll always roll a 6. It's doing the ritual because that puts you in the frame of mind to be really confident and really focused and know that you do this first because it's important, then you do this, and that does make you perform better. So I think there is something behind it, even if it's not kind of exactly what you think it's doing something.
My last take on this, Chris, is the fact that if it helps people, helps players, or helps someone from a confidence boost, a psychological perspective, great, fine. Anything that's going to make someone enjoy the game that little bit more, fantastic. But the other thing I really like about our community is everybody has these, everybody curses the dice. Everybody has their own little in-house, tongue-in-cheek sets of humor. Some of the responses in terms of Katya's post, the amount of people who do the reverse of what Tom do, and instead of having their 6s facing up, they have their 1s facing up. Everybody knows about, punishing the dice, because the dice are not just inert cube objects. They have feelings, and they're listening to you and what you're saying. Nuffle is certainly listening to you and watching whatever you say and do. There are some people like Andy Robb. Good evening, Andy, if you ever do listen to this. Well, where you place your dice, yes, if that keeps you smiling and makes you sleep better the night before tournament, then God bless you.
I was literally just looking up that post on my phone.
I know the one we talk about. So from that perspective, I think it adds a lot of flavor and entertainment, into our game and our community, which I do not want us to lose as a game. But yes. But on the weekend, just for our listeners, I will use a dice cup. I might have to buy one, but there you go. I will use a dice cup and a mat just for that game as well, and I will use one set of dice only. Do they have to? And if you feel that they have to be the same 8 or the same 9 dice, or they have to be the same color, same creed, whatever they are, I'm more than happy to embrace that.
Yes, check out the New Dice Please YouTube channel, and that's where you'll probably find the information on we're all going to play some Sevens games at the weekend, because Mr. Feeks, who normally isn't in Suffolk, is going to be in Suffolk, and we're going to make the most of that and play lots of Bloodbowl and chat podcasts and all that. So keep an eye out for that. Well, if you are listening to this podcast and you have your own superstition, you think superstitions are nonsense, there's anything that you do that is a interesting quirk about the game, feel free to let us know and we might bring it up in another podcast. Or if you have a genuine other kind of opinion or thought or kind of take on Blood Bowl, hey, who knows, we may end up doing an entire episode based on a comment that you've made. So if you want to get in touch, hey, Mr. Scott Bryant, how do people get in touch?
Hey, Mr. Christopher Cole, if people want to tell us about their superstitions, as you rightly say, if this podcast itself and listening to it every week is one of your new superstitions, or if you want to give us your feedback about flatulent resistance rating of underwear in particular, drop us a note. Usual place, new dice please, or one word, or lowercase new dice please at gmail.com. And then Mr. Tom H, if people want more Blood Bowl action, interest, information, witterings, where can they go to satisfy their cravings?
Yeah, sure. So we are on the socials, so you can get us on Instagram and Blue Sky and New Dice Please. You can also see us as well as hear us through YouTube, either on as Chris has just mentioned, the New Dice Please YouTube site, but also Blood Bowl Live, where we also have a number of games, including tournaments that we have recently played at. And finally, if you want to get us on the podcast and subscribe to us, please do on the likes of Spotify, Amazon, Apple, etc.
Yeah, if you actually want to see me win a game, you can look on the Blood Bowl Live YouTube channel, and there's actually a video of me winning a game on there, which is not something that happens overly often. I think I can count 2 in the last several months. So yeah, go check that out. Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant. Thank you very much, Mr. Hovell. Thank you very much, Mr. Feeks. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We have been New Dice Please, and we will see you next time. As a little NDP end bonus bit, I genuinely think, Feeks, I think if there was a podcast titled like Farts and Other and I think I think we could do an entire podcast on rating underwear via their ability to withstand repeated farts. I think that's
we genuinely could, and I feel like my wife would probably appreciate finding the result of the winner.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Emily will deny it, but she would absolutely, if I could say her this is particularly fart resistant, she would buy it.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I was meaning Cat would buy it
just
for
to clarify.
me. I'm not saying anything about that.
Are you and are you just confirming, Chris, that Emily would buy it for you?
No, I'm not. No,
Okay.
no.
No, it's still saying on air on mine. Are we still?
Yeah, we're still on air. I'll stop it now.
Wow, it's a good thing that our partners do not listen to this.
She won't listen to this.